For the past 2 years, I have been publishing tutorial videos such as psyllium husks versus powder, egg whites versus whole eggs, right? Battle of egg whites. This one talks about the differences between fresh egg whites, liquid egg whites from cartons, and egg white powder. Okay, and also keto bread baking tutorial. There's a lot of information there, and which I believe will be very useful for you, so I hope you check it out. Right now, subsequently I received requests for a more general baking tutorial video, not just on keto bread. So I have been actually doing that for the past 2 weeks in 3 parts. Okay, part 1 talks about the main issue of keto bread and how to fix it. Okay, part 2 talks about the different types of low carb flours. Okay, so you don't have to limit to almond and coconut flour only. There's a great variety of low carb flours. Okay, now part 3 talks about substitution of ingredients. So today is the final part, part 3. I'm going to share with you what you can and cannot substitute. Many times I get asked questions, such as, can I substitute this flour with another flour? Can I use whole eggs instead of egg whites? Can I use milk instead of whipping or heavy cream? How to make the recipe dairy free? Can I omit the eggs or replace with flax eggs to make it an eggless version? Can I omit the psyllium husks or replace with xanthan gum, flax seeds, or chia seeds? I even get questions such as, can I replace the cheese in a cheesecake recipe? So there's endless of questions that I receive. And even though I've come up with so many baking tutorials, I still receive all these questions. So today I want to share with you what ingredients you can and cannot substitute. Now let's start with the substitution for keto bread ingredients. Okay, now number 1 is the flour. Now keto bread is so complicated. I've said it many times. It's complicated because of the alternative ingredients we use. Okay, low carb flours have different characteristics, such as certain flours are more absorbent than others, and some flour rises better than others. Okay, so it needs many experimentations before we know whether the recipe is right or not. Okay, so and sometimes we have to give up because there are too many failures, so the recipe just doesn't work. So it is not possible to substitute the flour without experimenting on it first. Now next is psyllium husks. Okay, now psyllium husks is another alternative ingredient for keto bread. Okay, it is the best replacement for gluten. It acts as the glue to hold everything together and provides elasticity to shape the dough. Okay, now it also bulks up well after absorbing all the liquid. So we get a nice big loaf of bread with a bread-like texture. Okay, now so far I have not found a substitute for psyllium husks. Some of you suggested bamboo fiber, but I can't get hold of it yet. Yes, I will experiment with it when it is available to me. Okay, now not all fibers act the same as psyllium husks. Alright, such as like oat fiber and flax seeds, in terms of bulking up and the texture. So when I make oat fiber flaxseed bread, I still have to add psyllium husks. Okay, I've also tried with xanthan gum and chia seeds, but they just don't work. Right, chia seeds actually make the bread super dense without any air pockets at all. Okay, now if you are intolerant or unable to get hold of psyllium husks, you can try my bread recipes without psyllium husks. So you can check out here. They are a bit more cake-like and a little crumbly, but still a good alternative. Now the next item is eggs. Okay, I have explained many times that I use egg whites because the protein from the whites help to boost the rice and make the bread less eggy. If you want to substitute with whole eggs, you can, except that there will be a lack of rice as the fats from the yolks hinders the rice. Okay, and the bread will be more eggy and it will look more yellowish. Okay, now I actually published a video on egg whites versus whole eggs about 2 years ago, so please check it out here, and it has got a lot of information there. Alright, now if you do not mind the lack of rice, then you can replace the egg whites. If a recipe calls for 6 large egg whites, you just replace with 3 large whole eggs. Okay, 3 large whole eggs. Now if you wish to use egg whites but you do not want to deal with leftover egg yolks, then you can replace the fresh egg whites with liquid egg whites. You know those from the cartons? Yes, at the same amount. Okay, so if a recipe calls for 250 grams of fresh egg whites, you just replace with 250 grams of liquid egg whites from cartons. Okay, now you can also replace with egg white powder. Okay, the ratio is for 1 large egg white, it's 6.25 grams of egg white powder. Okay, and you have to add 35 ml room temperature water. This is to hydrate the egg white powder. Now the last ingredient for bread is apple cider vinegar. Okay, now apple cider vinegar is one of the regular ingredients in most keto bread, and you can't really taste it. Okay, but it does help with the rice a bit, and it helps to create a more bread-like texture and gives the bread a crustier texture too. Okay, if you're using ground sunflower seeds to make keto bread, then apple cider vinegar is crucial because the acid helps to neutralize the color reaction. Okay, so the bread won't turn green. Now you can replace apple cider vinegar with white vinegar or lemon juice. Now for cakes, keto cakes, yes, it is possible to substitute the flour in cakes. Now for most of my cake recipes, I actually provide you with the option of using almond flour, coconut flour, and the combo of both flours. Okay, both almond and coconut flour. Now if there are recipes where such options are not provided, then you can calculate on your own like this. Okay, if almond flour is 120 grams, coconut flour should be 25% of 120 grams. Okay, so it should be 30 grams only. Now if you wish to combine both flours, both almond and coconut flour, for example almond flour is 240 grams. Okay, you can use 120 grams of almond flour and 30 grams of coconut flour. So that is a combination of almond and coconut flour, which you can calculate out yourself. Okay, now the next is heavy or whipping cream. Okay, now in most of my cake recipes I use whipping or heavy cream. You can substitute at the same ratio with coconut cream for dairy-free option. Okay, for dairy-free you can use coconut cream, same ratio. You can use the same ratio of yogurt, sour cream, and milk. Okay, now for milk, because the consistency is different with whipping cream, you need to reduce the amount of whipping cream by 15% and increase the fat, that is the butter or the oil, by 70%. For recipes which calls for milk, I usually either use unsweetened pea or unsweetened almond milk, but you can actually use any keto friendly milk. You can also replace the milk with heavy or whipping cream by diluting it with 40% cream plus 60% water to get the right consistency. Okay, now the next one is sweetener. Okay, I usually use monk fruit for most of my recipes and allulose for recipes that requires chilling, such as spreads, jellies, cheesecake or frosting, so that it does not taste grainy when chilled. However, you can also use any keto-friendly sweetener. But bear in mind that allulose browns quite quickly. So if used for baking, the baked goods may turn out overly brown. So you have to be careful with allulose, alright? Now for powder sweetener, I normally use monk fruit and I just grind it into a powdery texture. So I do the same for allulose, particularly if I need to use it in frosting or no-bake recipes, okay? So this is way cheaper than buying pre-ground powder sweetener. I find that it's very expensive here in my country. I'm not sure about you. So I just grind it in bulk and store in the fridge for convenience. Okay. Now, it is not advisable to use liquid sweeteners, as quite a lot is needed to sweeten cakes. Hence, the texture may be affected due to additional moisture. Okay. But if you're using only a few drops, then it should be fine. Now the last ingredient is eggs. Okay. For cakes, you can actually replace whole eggs with egg whites. The amount of egg whites should be double the amount of whole eggs. Okay. The batter can be a bit dry, but it will bake up fine. Now, even though the texture turns out slightly drier and the cake looks whiter, but it still tasted good. Okay, it's a great alternative for those who have problem with egg yolks. Okay, now I have tried using flax seeds, xanthan gum and psyllium husks to substitute whole eggs for cakes, but I have not had any success after so many experiments. It is very tough as all these substitute ingredients were unable to hold the cake and produce a good texture. Only one recipe worked with flax eggs, and that is the keto carrot cake with ground sunflower seeds. And of course, it does not rise as much, and the cooking time was just as long, even though I used a bigger and flatter pan. Okay, the texture was softer but stickier and a bit fragile, but it still tasted good. So basically, it is not easy to make eggless versions of keto baked goods, especially when we are using gluten-free and low-carb flours. I've only managed to make 15 eggless keto bread recipes so far, which you can find in my books and also in the playlist. And I must say that eggless keto bread, you will find the texture is very different. It's a lot denser because it doesn't rise as much due to the lack of protein. Okay, and I've also made some eggless cookies, tortilla wraps, pizza crust recipes, so you can check them out. Okay, now in conclusion, it's good to know that there are certain ingredients that you can or cannot substitute for low carb keto recipes. Okay, so I hope this tutorial helps you. As usual, if you have any question, please leave a comment below. Thank you for watching. Bye.